Hello everyone, Reginald Scott here. Welcome to the video. Great to see you all again. Hope you're all doing really well today. Now today I've got a repair video for you. I posted on my communities tab not so long ago that my R1, let's see if I can get this right actually, is the longest shoe name in history. My R1 Physique Infinito knit cycling shoes had given up the ghost on a bike ride. Actually both shoes, the soles came detached during a ride. They looked like the Cookie Monster about to receive a cookie. They were gaping wide open, and I said on my page that I was going to try and repair them. And I got a lot of helpful advice from everybody on the page, so thank you very much for those of you giving helpful advice. But I also got a lot of people asking the question, why even bother?
By the way, folks, the channel is almost at 10,000 subscribers, so don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share with a friend, because it would be absolutely amazing if we could get to that 10,000 number. Thank you.
So today I'm going to show you how I've done my repair, so you can repeat the same repair at home if you so desire, if your shoes, like these ones, decide to die on you. But I also want to justify why I'm doing the repair. So first off, I like these shoes a lot.
I like this gun.
I've had these shoes a long time and they've done a lot of mileage with me. And I find them to be very lightweight, very comfortable, very stiff. They are really good shoes apart from the old soles coming off. So I'd like to keep them if I may. And I've done repairs to these already. So already I've broken bow dials on these and I've had to replace those. But, you know, I wouldn't throw the shoe away for a bow dial, right? That doesn't make much sense. And for me, the sole coming off, yeah, it's a bigger repair, but it's still more than justifiable, especially when you consider that new, these shoes were like 350 Brunei dollars. That's about 350 Australian or 350 Singaporean dollars. That's not cheap, you know, several £100, several hundred US dollars. Not something that I personally can afford to throw away, especially on my income, being that I run a very small bike shop in a very small community with very few customers because it is such a small population. I haven't got the income to just throw away 350 Brunei dollar shoes. Now, personally, I've never actually had a sole of any of my shoes come off before. This is the first time it's happened to me. So this was a bit of a new experience for me. Now, a lot of people recommend that I buy a shoe adhesive called shoe goo. And I heard a lot of great things about this shoe goo. So if you have access to that stuff, I would follow the recommendations of some of my viewers and I would get hold of it for repairing your shoes. However, where I live in Brunei, we have very limited access to sort of big brand stuff sometimes. And the only thing I was able to get hold of was this, which is original shoe adhesive. And it's obviously just some off-brand cheapo shoe adhesive. As you can see, I've used the entire tube of it. This actually seems to be pretty good. So if you can't get hold of shoe goo, don't worry, because the way I fix these shoes hopefully is going to help whatever glue that you actually use. I glued them first, as you can see. I have also riveted these things together. So how have I done that and why have I done that? Well, my theory was this. I've glued things in the past, and obviously with usage and the shoes flexing and stuff, that glue bond is probably going to break down over time. Obviously it did, otherwise the shoes wouldn't have broken in the first place. So I thought, you know what, gluing them isn't going to be enough. So what I've done is I've riveted them on with a rivet gun. This is my rivet gun. There are many like it, but this one is mine.
This is my rifle. There are many like it, but this one is mine. My rifle is my best friend.
These things are called pop rivets because they make a popping sound when they connect. I always thought these were called pot rivets. That's because my father always called them pot rivets, possibly because they are made out of a very cheap soft metal like a old 1950s pot. But actually perhaps it was just my dad getting the name wrong. And like I say, all my life I've called them pot rivets, but the internet tells me that is incorrect. These are pop rivets. Now the metal they're made out of, they have stainless steel little cores here, or axles, and on which sit these aluminium rivets. Okay, so the way this thing works is you put it inside the gun, you then insert the head of the rivet here into a hole, then you squeeze on the handle, and it pulls this stainless steel rod down inside the rivet, splaying out the end of the rivet here and connecting whatever is in the middle together. And then the head of this thing actually breaks off, and you are just left with the rivet in whatever you need to rivet.
Daddy loves Froggy. Froggy love Daddy. Rivet. Rivet.
First things first, obviously follow the instructions when you're gluing something. As I did, I read the instructions on the back and I followed them to the letter. And basically with this particular shoe glue, you want to coat both sides of the surface that you want to glue. You want to make sure that both sides of the object you want to glue are clean and dry and free of dust. So I scraped them both down. I scraped all the old adhesive off. I used sandpaper to score up the surface of the carbon fiber sole to make sure that they were as grippy as possible for the glue. I vacuumed them out to make sure that they were nice and clean, wiped them out as well with a bit of paper. You coat both sides in glue, you stick the things together. Now the instructions said hold for 10 seconds, but I noticed when I held them together that they just weren't holding together even after 10 seconds. So what I did then was I basically got some of these clamps here and I clamped the shoe together just very gently. I didn't overdo it, just enough to hold them in place like this while they were drying. So I got a couple of sets of clamps on this thing, one lower down. These split, as you can see, occurred from about here. So I went all the way down with the glue to where the split in the shoe had happened. I decided not to pull the rest of the shoe off. If this glue is the original glue is holding, I thought I'll just leave it. If it does detach later on, I can always come back and do that later. I'm hoping it won't, what with the rivets being in the shoes now. And then I kept them setting, basically. The glue says give it 24 hours. For me, that wasn't long enough, so I actually left them glued for 3 days. Now, I find that with glues, especially here in Southeast Asia, where we've got very high humidity and heat, glues need a really good long time to set. And I find that if you try and use them too soon after gluing, they're just not holding properly, and things will come away from each other. So yeah, I give a really long drying time, and I think I'd recommend that for any project you're doing. Always go longer rather than shorter with regards to gluing stuff. It's better to wait a bit longer than the glue to fail, because if it fails, you've got the whole mess of having to clean everything again, scrape all the glue off, buy new glue and start again. So the longer curing time or drying time you can give your shoe or your project, the better. And then, like I say, once they've been setting for about 3 days, remove the clamps, and then that's when I started doing the riveting. Now I've actually left one rivet undone so that I can show you today how to do that. The best way for me to use these on your cycling shoes, if you can, is to go from the inside like this. So you want the mushroom side to be underneath. Sorry, this is the insole that you remove. You want to be going in this direction. Let me just get a torch so you can see it. Okay, let's turn that brightness down. So that is the optimum way, I think, to use these. And the reason I say that is because inside here, this sole, although it sounds pretty hard, this is the softest part of the sole, okay? And so if you try and rivet them from this side, this will not grip against that sole well enough as you start to tighten the rivet, and it will just come out, or it will just tear through the softer part of the sole. So ideally what you want to do is come through from this side. Now the problem is that you can get the rivet gun in the back of the shoe pretty easy, as you can see. That's not an issue. But getting it in the front, that's really difficult. I tried absolutely everything to get my rivet gun in here, but I couldn't do it. No matter how hard I tried, I could not get my rivet gun where I needed it to be. I even undid these laces, I took the bow dials off, I unthreaded everything. Still, it wasn't enough to get the rivet gun down in the front. So I've had to go in from the other direction. I've had to go in from this side, and that's not as good. So the way I solved that issue, or the way I attempted to solve that issue, was first off to stop the rivets from just pulling out, because like I say, the inside of the sole is much softer. I went to the hardware store and I bought some of these washers. Okay, these are little stainless steel washers, very cheap, one BND, one Bruneian dollar. Now these weren't exactly the right size for my rivets, so I've had to drill them out in order to use them. But the idea was I drill them out and then I slide them onto the rivet so that I've got something for the rivet to bite down on. And I've also got a bigger surface area when I mount the rivets as well to pull down on the softer side of the sole. Right, let's get on with actually doing one as a demonstration, and it's the last one I have to do. So I've marked up the position where I want to stick that rivet, and I did that by just taking one of the washers, sticking it on top here, and I also worked out based on my insole where that rivet would end up, and obviously I tried to make it away from my toe or my toes. So this is the last one to do, and then I just drew inside there with a permanent marker. So I have my position now for my hole. As you can see, this shoe has got these sort of steps in it to walk on or push off from, so these rivets are not going to actually touch the ground, and that way they're protected as well. They also are not interfering with the cleat. You don't want to stick them over here or something protruding outwards, because when you try and clip in, you're not going to be able to. So you need to keep them away from your clip-in area. So I've got my electric drill, and we're going to start off with a small drill bit. Now, the reason we want to start with a small drill bit is we want to do as little damage to the inside of the sole as possible. Like I say, this material is soft. It's kind of like a compacted, soft material held together with some kind of glue. And this stuff can burst, basically, if you drill it with too big a drill bit straight away. You want to step up the drill bits gradually. 2mm drill bit, then I'm going to go up to 3 and then 3.5. Okay, so gradual steps with this. Okay, I'm going to drill this now. I'm going to do it off to the side where I've got my vise. I can do it on the table, but it's easier next to my vise. So just 1 second. Okay, so I just want to show you now, there is some, these soles are carbon fiber, and there is some carbon fiber dust building up. So make sure you've got a vacuum cleaner to hand to get rid of that dust, because you don't want to be breathing that in. You don't want that in your workshop anywhere if you can help it. So just try and keep your working environment clean. You can also run the vacuum cleaner next to your shoe while you're drilling, and that will just remove the dust instantaneously. Be careful not to put too much downward pressure. Also, don't forget there'll be dust inside the shoe. Yeah, don't put too much downward pressure. Let the drill do the work, because again, if you push hard, as the drill bit goes through the harder carbon shell and into the softer material of this stitch sole, it again might burst that material out. And if you burst that material out, you've got nothing to clamp against. So again, so we've got our small hole in there. Now we're going to step it up. Okay, 3mm is done. Now we just need the final one, 3.5. Now I'm going to keep this 3.5 in the chuck, because I also need this one to drill out my washer, which again, I couldn't find a washer that corresponded perfectly with the pop rivets. So I'm going to have to drill out this washer to exactly the right size. As you can see, it's simply not big enough. Okay, so there we go. There's our hole. Now I'm going to drill out my washer. For this, you're probably going to need a vise. If you don't have a vise, you can try clamping it to a table with a G-clamp or something. or ideally just get washers that actually fit. You want a tight fit. If you have a really loose fit on your rivet, it's not going to work very well. So to get the tightest fit possible, as you can see right now, it's not going on. It's slightly bigger, still slightly bigger than the washer. What I'm going to do is just sand down the top here. But before I do that, I need to shorten this rivet. This rivet was too long. Again, if you can get rivets that are exactly the right size for your shoe, that's preferable. I couldn't, so I'm going to have to shorten this down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some of the material off this one. I'm just using a pair of side cutters. These are electrical side cutters. As the aluminium on these is very soft, so an electrical side cutter will do this absolutely fine. This is designed for cutting through copper and soft metals. They're sharp and very precise. I'm going to take about that much material off the top on this one. Just making little cuts around the top of the rivet. These rivets are extremely cheap. I've got a bag of them here, again for $1. So very cheap. If you mess it up, you can just drill them out and start again. So as I cut with this, it actually pushes the rivet down. Don't worry about going all the way through, because the stainless steel in the middle is much stronger than the aluminium, so you won't cut all the way through. You might dull your clippers, but your side cutters, but you're not going to go all the way through. And then I can just take this edge off here. There we are. And that pulls that material off. There it goes. So you just need to pop the head down so it seats nicely against the top of the rivet. So for that, you're going to need the only tool in Hambini's tool shed, the hammer. So you can use your vise for that. If you don't have a vise, you can drill a hole in a piece of wood that's equal depth and just tap it down on top like that. Right, now this rivet is ready to go in our shoe. Let's see if it fits. We haven't sanded it. Hang on. So we don't need the drill bit anymore. We can remove that. You want to place your new rivet, I'll get rid of the small one, inside the drill. Like that. And then I'm going to use a little bit of sandpaper. Here we go. Just wrap the sandpaper around the top part of that rivet. Give it a bit of sanding. All right, now we're ready to fit the rivet. So we have our washer, we have our rivet. The two things go together nicely, and it's a nice tight fit with no gap. So we insert our rivet into the shoe. Give it a push. Okay, all the way down into the carbon fiber. And then the other side, now we're going to have to fit our washer. It's a little bit tricky, but you'll get the hang of it. With the washer, you've got two sides on the washer. You've got a flat, sharp side and a more domed, smooth side with these small washers. Obviously, fit the flat side towards the base of the sole. Put the washer on the end of my finger like this, so I can feel where that rivet is poking out of the shoe. And like I say, it takes a little bit of finesse, but you'll get the hang of it eventually. Okay, so once you've got that washer on the inside, you need to get your rivet gun and insert the end of the pot rivet into the rivet gun, push down, and with the other hand push down from the other, push the washer down from the other side and then you can start pulling. Give a little pull to begin with just to tighten everything up.
Always like to keep my audience riveted.
There we are. And the tail or the tang of the rivet, that's what it's called, a tang. The tang of the rivet will just drop out the gun, and that will now be attached to your shoe. Okay. Let's have a look on the inside. Right, so if we look on the inside, there isn't actually that much material sticking up out the back, which is good, means we cut the rivet pretty close to where we needed it. Again, if you can get rivets of exactly the right length, that would be the best option. In fact, that is so good. I cut it so tight that there's virtually nothing there to file down. I'll give it a quick file, but I won't need to do much, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, if the head of the tang, so this little dome here, is poking up out of the back of the rivet, and it's going to get in the way, sanding or filing that down will be difficult because it's stainless steel, so it's quite hard. You only want the aluminium sticking up. So if this lump, for whatever reason, is sticking up and in the way, you can actually take the tang of the rivet, insert it inside the hole here, and then hit on this end with a hammer, and you can knock the stainless steel core out of the rivet. Because these are aluminium in carbon fiber, there is obviously a risk here of galvanic corrosion, but that's going to take a really long time to occur. I'm not a very sweaty person, so it's going to take me a long time to corrode through these. And if I do corrode through them, it's not the end of the world because they only cost me $1. I've got plenty left. And now it's a very quick job to replace them. So I'm not worried about that at all. So there you go. That is how I have done the repairs to my shoes. Hopefully these will hold up much better. I'm just going to file off a bit of that material in there just to demonstrate to you how I do that. Get your file, stick your finger on the back of it. That way you can search inside the shoe. If you can think of a better way to do this, go for it. But this is the only way I found of doing it. I found the sharp edge of that rivet. Again, ideally hammering it would be better, but I can't do that. So I'm just going to give it a few brushes of the file. It's sort of a dragging motion like this. Maybe even a nail file would do this better. These are aluminium, they're very, very soft. Even a nail file would probably do this job absolutely fine, as would like an emery board or something. Again, you don't want to remove too much material from the back of that rivet, just enough to get it a bit smoother. Okay, there we are. You can see the aluminium on my fingers there and on the file. So just rubbed a little bit off. Job done. Fantastic. Then we can insert our insoles back into the shoe. And then I'm going to feel around the front end, and I literally can't feel anything. There's nothing there as far as I can feel with my fingers. So that's a nice smooth insole. And again, if you can feel anything poking up, go back in there with the file it down a little bit more. So there you go. That is my repair. Let me know what you think of it. Was it worth it? Should I have just thrown these shoes away? Can you think of ways to improve this repair? Do you think it's going to last, or do you think it's going to fall apart tomorrow? Just got back from a 50-kilometer ride with 11.6 gradient climbs, and I was motoring today. Actually got a really good time, and I also raced the moped as well, and actually out accelerated the moped, and it looks like the repair is holding up. So there you go. There's one shoe, and there's the other. None of the pins have fallen out yet, none of the rivets, and the glue appears to have completely set and nothing is tearing away yet. So there you go. They don't look bad from the top, they look disgusting from the bottom. But from the top they look all right. There you go, folks. Thank you for watching. as always, and when you're out riding, do try and stay safe, and I shall see you in the next video. Thank you, and goodbye.